of oneg. And if it was because of oneg, so then you just put on these lights and you don't need the candle lights, which give the kavod. And so we have both reasons. Now, what are the ramifications of this? The ramifications are that because there's an inyan of shalom bayis, and because there's an inyan of kavod, and because there's an inyan of oneg, therefore, the Shabbos candles must be utilized, and you have to have hana'ah from them. And therefore, they have to be in a place where they're going to give you some benefit. You have to have some hana'ah from the candle lights. You put them on the table where you're eating, they'll help you see, even if you have lights on, and they'll add sophistication to the meal. That's why it's always been the minhag that the candle lights were always placed on the table or near the table. This presents a problem. Let's say someone is going to a hotel. You're going to a hotel for Shabbos. They don't let you light in the room. It's a fire hazard. So where do you light? They usually light in the dining room. But if you're lighting in the dining room where everyone has a separate table far away from where everybody's eating, and you're lighting candles over there, and you're not having any benefit from it, then you're not fulfilling the mitzvah of lighting candles. So what do you do in such a circumstance? When you're in a hotel and everybody is lighting in the corner. So the recommendation is this. You do two things. Number one, in your room, where you're going to have some light, even if it's the bathroom light. Let's say you have a room in the hotel, it's a private room. You don't want to leave the light on in the room itself. You won't be able to sleep if you leave the light on. So what do? You leave the hall light on, or the closet light on, or the bathroom light on. When the woman turns that light on, or the man, if you're a single man, when you turn that light on, think to yourself and say to yourself, I'm turning this light on. I can't make a bracha on this light, because according to Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zechron Levracha, in the Igros, he says you cannot, it doesn't mention in the Igros, but it's Mipi Shmua, you cannot make a bracha on an electric light. Even though there are many poskim that allow you to make a bracha on a clear, incandescent bulb that has a filament that glows, still Rav Moshe said you can't make a bracha on an electric light. So what do? You turn the light on in the room. You have in mind that that light is considered for the lights of Shabbos, and when you light candles down there, you're going to have in mind that the bracha on the candles also goes for that, and then do something right by the candles that gives you some hana'ah. Say a kapitel Tehillim, daven Kabbalah Shabbos. You can't daven mincha because once you light the candles, it's already Shabbos. A woman who's lighting candles or a man who's lighting candles has to daven mincha before the lighting of candles, unless they're not accepting Shabbos. We have a rule that women with the lighting of candles are accepting Shabbos, and therefore they have to daven mincha before. A man, we say, even if the man is lighting candles, generally doesn't accept Shabbos until the Zman comes, and therefore they can even daven mincha after the lighting of the candles. Okay, so we have the reasons on kavod and oneg, and now we come to a shaila that comes up all the time. I'm going out to eat Friday night. Right after I light candles, I'm going to this person's house. I'm not going to come back until later, 4 hours later. Where do I light candles? Do I light candles at the home I'm going to be eating Friday night? Or do I light candles in my own home where I'm going to be sleeping? This is a shaila, because you have to have oneg and kavod Shabbos where you're sleeping, shalom bayis, and you also have to have oneg and kavod where you're eating. So what do you do? Again, the same recommendation. There are two possibilities. One, light candles the way it is at the right time and have benefit from those candles. Daven, serve something, put something together at the light of those candles. And then go to the other person's house and eat there. And rely on the candles that they're going to light over there. But some people don't like doing that. Because some people are worried, if I leave candles in my house and there's no one home, I'm worried. It's not, you can't leave burning fire if nobody's home. Some people are very concerned about it. Usually, candles don't go anywhere. They stay still. But, people sometimes worry about it. So what do? There are a number of suggestions. First of all, you can get the tea lights, which you can put into a tray surrounded by tinfoil. You won't have any problem. That's number one. But what you could do is this, the same thing we recommended before. put on the lights in the house prior to your leaving. Have in mind that the bracha you're going to be making is on the lights of the house too. I can't make a bracha on the lights, but they're part of kavod and oneg Shabbos. Then light at the house where you're going to be eating, and when you light over there, you make the bracha, and you have in mind the lights that you turned on in the house. Even though I can't make a bracha on electric lights, but they do fulfill the concept of kavod and oneg Shabbos, and consequently I'll make the bracha on those lights. These are some of the major issues that have to do with candle lighting that people need to know. That when you light the candles, you have in mind that it's for the sake of kavod and oneg Shabbos. When it comes to making kiddush, we know that the Gemara in Pesachim tells us that when it says in the Torah, Zochor es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadsho, there's a din of Zochrehu al Hayayim. You have to make the kiddush on wine. And the kiddush that you make on wine fulfills, according to some, the mitzvah de oraisa. Some say that because you're davening Friday night and you're saying Elokeinu Elokeinu Ritzevim Nuchosenu Kadeshenu b'mitzvosecha, and you're ending off with Echot Hashem Mekadesh HaShabbos, that's a kiddush. And then when you go home and make it on wine, it's only midrabanan. That's according to many opinions. This, of course, is only for you, but for the woman who didn't necessarily daven, or if you are being motzi others who are at home with the kiddush, then it's a midoraisa law. And a woman is chayiv in kiddush just as a man is chayiv in kiddush. Question, of course, if a woman can be motzi a man has to do not so much with the technicalities, because technically she could be motzi a man, but because we say it's not proper due to the fact that, number one, we don't want to put women in a position where others are going to be looking at them. And if there are guests at the home, that's going to be number one issue. And the other issue is because it's a shame and disgrace, unless the person's sick, God forbid. But it's a shame. A man shouldn't know how to make kiddush, and his wife doesn't know how to make kiddush. So, therefore, we generally don't say that women are motzi the man, but the man definitely is motzi the woman in kiddush. The procedure is instructive and important. Many people are not aware of the procedure properly for making kiddush. Here it is. We start with Vayechulu Hashamayim v'Haaretz v'chol tzva'am, but not so. We really start with Yom HaShishi, right? Yom HaShishi, Vayechulu Hashamayim v'Haaretz v'chol tzva'am. And why do we start with those words? If you'll notice, Yom HaShishi, Vayechulu Hashamayim, the first letters of those four words are Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? That's Hashem's name. But you're not supposed to start with the word Yom HaShishi. Why? Because that's in the middle of a pasuk, and you're not allowed to break up a pasuk. So what do you have to start with? You have to start with Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Voker. Now you don't say Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Voker too loud. You say it in an undertone, because the only reason I'm saying it is so I don't start in the middle of a pasuk. So I say Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Voker, Yom HaShishi out loud. I start from there. Now, at that point, when the person's making kiddush and you're saying Yom HaShishi, one should be looking at the Shabbos candles, because we're looking at the candles to remind us that now that it's Shabbos, I am benefiting from candles that I lit before Shabbos, but on Shabbos I'm not allowed to light them, because I'm chayiv to be very, very careful of not making, of course, a fire on Shabbos. And consequently, I look at the candles, and Chazal tell us that when you look at the candles, it helps ma'or einayim. It's a benefit to the eyes. How that exactly works, I'm not an ophthalmologist, I can't tell you. But I can tell you this, that we have a concept that the eyes are the window to the soul. And of course, looking at the candles, therefore, is helping our neshama. So we look at the candles for the entire Yom HaShishi, and we say that paragraph looking at the candles. Then we have the cup in our hand, which is resting in the palm of our hand, with our fingers embracing the cup, and we're looking now, and we look at the cup of wine. So we switch our focus from the candles in Yom HaShishi to the cup of wine when we say the Borei Pri HaGofen, after which of course, everyone's going to answer Amen, and we're going to drink. Now, there are 3 minhagim about whether to stand or sit by Kiddush. Some sit the entire Kiddush, as is brought down in the Ramah. They sit for the entire Kiddush. Others sit down after Vayechulu, and they stand for Vayechulu. And some follow the Arizal, and they stand for the entire Kiddush. All 3 minhagim are totally acceptable. But all 3 poskim, and Aruch HaShulchan, and everyone else, paskins, that when you drink the wine, you must be sitting. And that's because the wine must be Kiddush b'makom se'uda, and you don't eat a se'uda standing up. And consequently, everyone agrees that the proper procedure is that when you drink it, you must be sitting. How much do you have to drink, and who has to drink? Lichatchila, the best thing is everyone at the table drink something. Preferably, the one who makes the Kiddush drinks what is known as malo lugma, a cheekful. A cheekful is usually known as a rov revius, a majority of a quarter of a log. A quarter of a log is, on Friday night, according to the measurements we have, about 4 ounces. So a majority of that would be a drink of a little more than 2 ounces. It's a very small amount. It's 2 ounces. So the drinker should drink approximately 2 ounces of the wine, and everyone else can have a sip or a little bit in order to be yotzei. If the person who's making Kiddush can't drink anything that's in that cup, they should not be the one to make Kiddush. Someone else should make the Kiddush. So let's review. The major point of Kiddush is, first, we say Vayera Vayivoka slow, Yom HaShishi Alav, we look at the candles. Then when it comes to the Baruch Piagofa, we switch our focus and focus on the wine. Then we sit down, according to all opinions, and drink the wine. If you were sitting already, okay, but if you weren't, you must sit down in order to drink, and everyone at the table should drink some. Whether or not you use wine or grape juice is a discussion. Wine is preferable, grape juice is acceptable, certainly so, but Chamar Medina, which you're allowed to use for Havdalah, is not acceptable for Kiddush except B'shas Hadchak Gadol, except under very pressing circumstances. If you don't have any wine or you can't drink wine, make Kiddush over Challah, because you're allowed to make Kiddush on Friday night over the 2 loaves of bread. Of course, you'll wash first, and then you'll say the Kiddush, and it's not considered a hefsek. In fact, there are some people, the Yekis, who actually wash before Kiddush, say Kiddush on the wine, sit down and drink the wine, and then make a motzi on the challah. And now we come to the motzi on the challah. How many challahs do you need? We know you need 2 challahs. By the way, I should go back just to mention, I said me'ikar adin, when it comes to candles, you only need 1 candle. Our minig is minimally to light 2 candles. We light 2 candles for Friday night because of Zachar and Shomer. A lot of people have a minig that they add a candle for every member of the family. Kol hakavod. You should do that. It's proper. It's nice to do. But once you do that, you can't reduce them, except when you're traveling. The person's traveling, sometimes they might want to have only 2 candles when they're traveling. Okay. God forbid someone forgets to light candles on Friday night, and it's not because of a matter that they could not avoid, but something they could have avoided. It's a very difficult shayla, and once you ask their Rav a shayla, there's a possibility they may have to light another candle for the rest of their lives. It's possible. It's also possible that you won't, depending on the circumstances. Let's say there was an emergency, you had an accident, and you couldn't light candles, that's not considered in that category. We're talking where a person was neglectful. Okay, so let's get back to the challahs. We need 2 challahs for the month, because on Friday, in honor of Shabbos, 2 challahs, 2 double portions of mon fell, and there were 2 loaves. The procedure is very interesting. Lehalacha. Most poskim say